on a brief tour of each of. Oh, now we are recording, just so everybody knows. So the Learn page includes a lot of things on climate, health, energy, and water, but our health section has been developed over the last couple years and is extraordinarily rich with information about health enhancing strategies, about buildings and health, about circadian light, biophilic design, health and wellness guidance crosswalk, which actually takes all the different kinds of guidance out there, well, fit well, etc., and shows how it relates to each other. It's a great resource for those of you who work in health and products intersection. So at the end of this call, when we are in Q&A, if you want me to take you on a tour of that part of the tool, I will do so. So let's keep going here, Paul. SFTool also has a plan section, which is essentially a mind dump of all of the things your best project managers who work in this area know, related to each kind of project, whether that's a furniture, fixtures, and equipment project, FF&E, or a major gut rehab, or maybe it's understanding what sustainability people mean when they say integrative design all the time and going, I'd really like to unpack that and understand what that means. So it's a great resource for you. Also, it helps connect to resources like net zero as a concept. It talks about net zero energy here, where we're developing content on net zero water, and also talks about climate writ large. So when you want to see how the work you're doing connects to the work of sustainability overall, this is a phenomenal resource for you to go to. And resource is really the key. And when I was a kid, I used to use Roget's Thesaurus, the hard book, to learn like all of the cool stuff. And I used it as a reference. It's within fingertips of my desk at all times. When I'm a project manager, I use the PMBOK and figure out what terms do I need. SFTool features ways to use it as a regular daily resource or touchstone, rather than going to a general, hey, let's Google that. Really what we've built is something that can help fill in the gaps on sustainability knowledge writ large. So let's keep going. That's the plan section. Explore section is a interactive tour of facilities, both on specific spaces where you can make green choices are always marked with those green dots that you see on that picture. And when you hover over those and explore, you actually open up ability to compare materials to one another, to understand which things you can make sustainable choices about, whether it's carpet or furniture or windows, or even some forward leaning, used to be anyway, things like light shelves there that you see on those windows that aren't in most buildings, but we wanted to model that for people. So that's the explore section. Then there's an apply and train section too. Apply is because the government talks about these issues all the time, and there's even something called the Interagency Sustainability Working Group and ISWG, and this is where all of their case studies go to live. So if you want to see what feds are talking about, that's the apply section. On the train side, we actually are responsible for managing the Federal Building Personnel Training Act, or FBPTA, and that requires facility managers to identify whether they have all the skills they need in order to manage today's modern buildings. And then where they identify gaps using our tool, we fill those gaps by giving them information from our tool and training opportunities outside of the federal government, many of which are free. Any of you interested in doing that can also access the same system to see what you know, what skills you have, and where you can go to get more knowledge on those. This is relevant to you all too, because health in buildings is a key topic that's more and more important for facility managers to learn about, and those questions are part of the skill set. So just something to flag for you. Okay, next we have the core part of what we're talking about today, which is the procure section, or the Green Procurement Compilation. The reason why it's called the compilation is because the federal government has lots of different rules that come from many different agencies, whether it's USDA BioPreferred or EPA WaterSense or Safer Choice or DOE EPA's Energy Star, right? Those are different agencies, so you'd need to go to different sites to get that information, and the procure section basically said, let's consolidate all that in one place. Let's get all the rules associated with each different kind of category in one place to make it easy for people. Now, just because the rules are associated in one place doesn't fully make it super easy for people if they still need to go to 12 different sites for ecolabels, et cetera, after that. So what we're going to show you is how getting all the rules clear and in front of people can also help folks like Paul develop tools that automate that and show you all the products that comply with the rules the feds say we want to follow. And that's really the magic of what we're going to get into next. Let's go to the next page. So we have 27 different categories from appliances all the way to vehicles here that we cover on SFTool. We have a services section too, but we're not going to talk about that today. But I know lots of you do cleaning supplies, etc. Those services pages are really helpful. They even connect to, well, what kind of things should people providing cafeteria services or janitorial services actually provide to the federal government? That's a fruitful place for you to look to. But with categories, we have 27 main categories. Everything with a green box is actually one of the places where we've built the interface with SFTool Product Search and Ecomedes that so you can get product level data. Let's go to the next page. So the GPC guidance for building finishes, as an example, this is what the page of building finishes would look like. You see the big category, building finishes, and then on the left, you see all the subcategories. That's where you'll find paint and signage and wall coverings, all that good stuff. We talk about the guidance. We talk about the FAR clauses that matter. We talk about all those 18 product subcategories. And lots of those subcategories have their own rules associated with them. So rather than expecting each buyer to know those rules, this page is here so that they can see which ones ought to apply. Let's go to the next page. This is the category of carpet. So for carpet, and I know it's relatively small, at least on my screen, it has the same kind of structure, but you notice all of those points underneath the picture of carpet. Those are from top to bottom, the required statutory rules for the federal government, in this case, biopreferred, on down to the multi-attribute third-party standards that are recommended by EPA, down to the single attribute standards that are recommended by EPA. And if you're buying carpet, you need to comply with this set of requirements. So how are you going to go about doing that? Are you going to click on each one of the links that are below this picture, follow it, and hope that you're going to be pointed towards actual products? Or many people do. But you could also follow those binoculars at the top of the page that are in green, and we'll show you what happens when you do that after another example. So here's the carpet one. Thank you. It's even blown up. So you see that you have the federal, you have the biopreferred and everything on the left, and then that little window there. Whoops, the little window there is saying what, Paul?
These are the declare labels, the other single attribute standards. So these are the federal, these are multi-attribute, these are single attribute, and many of them are embedded in the HPD already. So that structured data is already sitting there for us.
Right. Yeah. So this a great specific example adopted, especially to speak to this audience. So yeah, so we have all of those there, and they're pulled into the requirement system so that then we'll show you in a couple slides exactly how you see those in product search. So essentially what I've given two examples of in furnishings and also carpet is how you go from the procure section with all the rules to a promised automated digital catalog of all the products. And you do that by using the binoculars that are on those pages. And those are the URLs underneath there, and you'll all be sent this deck, not just the access to the recording afterwards. So you'll have all the hot links that we have in the deck available to you. Okay. So now, Paul, it's your turn.
Great. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a little bit more detail on how that data works and how we match up I call it the digital scavenger hunt for SFTool, GPC, and actually get to product IDs. So what we had to do with Michael is look at all those product category rules. So we showed you the 27 categories. There's actually 700 individual product category, subcategory, or subtype rules there. And a lot of them reference data coming in from certification bodies. The federal programs, Energy Star, WaterSense, Safer Choice, USDA biopreferred are the main ones. CPG is another reference source that we're working with the EPA on to create the database of recycled content data to drive it, no different than Energy Star. But then it's these third-party eco-labels and certifications that have been blessed off by the EPA through their rigorous research of what data sets matter. So these are all things that have already existed in the marketplace. They evaluated how they did the data, and then that data is being pushed in to those requirements. And then we have ways for manufacturers to enrich the data, because many eco-label certification body data sets, registries do not have images and descriptions, all the kind of things that we're used to now shopping online for. We don't have that coming in from a lot of certification bodies. Some are doing a much better job. We're really happy to have partners like HPDC and others that are kind of really enveloping all the data that we need. But remember, we have to make it simple for the user at the federal level. So what we do is we gather up all the rules, and imagine somebody kind of like the analogy I use is like a regular grocery store and a Whole Foods. We basically are taking all the Whole Foods requirements of the dietary restrictions of a federal buyer, and we have one platform just dedicated to SFTool in the federal government, where only products that meet those requirements get pulled in. So over 4,500 brands, 15 total categories, about 150 subcategories, 20 eco-label certification body registries, and over about 150,000 products in any given day are available to the federal buyer without them ever having to go on that scavenger hunt. And we're really proud of automating that much work, because when Michael used to do this work as a buyer and as a project manager, when we first met, he was giving me examples of a massive project that he did in Chicago that ended up being the Obama administration's transition offices before he went to the White House. He said he was out looking for this data, and it took them so long that in some cases they just gave up asking manufacturers for the data. So it was really fun to have a client that kind of felt that pain. So we wanted to never have a Michael sitting in any federal office searching for that information. So what we do here is we take a look at the main ones that have HPDC data. That's what we're going to focus on today. Building finishes with its 18 product subcategories, building furnishings for 7 product categories, cleaning products, construction materials, miscellaneous and personal care. These all have health and wellness derived attributes or disclosures or transparency. And the HPD Collaborative, as an open standard, gives us access to all that data-rich environment without having that user to have to scratch their head and kind of go out looking for it. But more importantly, even if they were to find all those PDFs on your website, would they know enough to create the context that all these rules, are baked in? So imagine these as like lead credits or well credits or LBC credits. They just happen to be very specific to a certain product and a certain data requirement. And so I'll stop right now and let maybe Michael talk about a little bit about the new executive orders that are referencing healthy products such as PFAS and things like that not being in the ingredient list. And then maybe Wendy could provide some other color commentary to that afterwards. So Michael, maybe why don't you give us a bigger picture about how health and some of these executive orders might be providing some other opportunity.
Sure. So it's been actually for a long time, the PFAS chemicals, or the plastic chemicals, have not been explicitly referenced in federal rules. Now that has changed. The executive order made those front and center. So EPA is working to actually figure out how to filter products to make sure that we are avoiding those chemicals. And we're working with them now in order to understand how to do that and get the data necessary in order to focus on that. One of the things that I know that most of you care deeply about health because of the organization that's our sponsor today. But one of the challenging things for buyers is that they are overwhelmed by not only buying the product that's that they're allowed to buy, that's fairly competed, et cetera, with Small Business Administration stuff and Buy American stuff and sustainability stuff and health. And they're like, I just need to buy something. We want to make sure that the new requirements are actually not scary, not one more thing they need to do, but actually filterable side by side with the things that they're already doing in their normal work process whenever possible. And that's critical here. But we're excited that things like PFAS or things like embodied carbon, again, a non-directly health related, but definitely health related issue, are things that we're adding to the tool and attending to because of the new executive orders.
So I'll just follow up on that. So one of the tenets of the HPD open standard from the outset was that this is an evolving discipline, what we now call material health, and what is the data that is most important. What is all the data that we need to have? And I was just on a conversation of earlier this morning with an architecture and design firm that has invested a lot of time and thought into all of these criteria and so on. And we've been talking about some of the new capabilities that we are introducing with the HPDC IT tools, which are really geared towards simplifying and streamlining how all of this can work. And then, of course, we have the connectivity with many of the libraries, of which Ecomedes is one of them, that we've been working with for a number of years. And so it's really, I think, a testament to all the hard work. Many of the people on this call have done a lot of HPD reporting. And if you're from the architecture and design side, you've been using these and helping us improve both the scope and the quality of the reporting that's in here. And a lot of the effort now is able to shift from those basics, I'll say, that we spent a lot of the last 10 years building and making sure that the data is accurate, reliable, and consistent across products and product categories. And now we can start to look at how to use combinations of the data. How do we support efforts like this one that aggregate lots of criteria? And what the HPD report provides is the foundational data that is directly from the manufacturers. And so it's validated against a standard. In many cases, a growing number of cases is actually third-party verified as well. And we want to continue all of that. But now when some new requirement, like the ones Michael is talking about, come in, when Paul approached me about, well, what can we do to support that? Actually, it's fairly simple for us to support the pinpointing of specific pieces of data or aggregations of data using the tools that we've already built. And so what that means is that we're going to be able to reflect in the HPD builder the requirements of certain programs such as these, so that manufacturers can be aware of them. And this will be done using our program pre-check feature, which we're expanding from just LEAD to encompass other programs such as these. And then also that analysis can be done and known for the products that are represented by an HPD report and exported to a library such as Ecomedes, and then supported in the SFTool from there. So I think when we look at, what is that, it seems like an overwhelming requirement, like Michael was saying, and our job here is to make it doable for both the manufacturers and the project teams and others who want to look at this information and understand it and use it. And the great news is, with everything that we've built, something new like this coming in, a relatively small amount of effort can really unlock a lot of possibilities very rapidly. And so I think it's just a testament to all of the work, the structure that we've created, and we're eager to work on this. And, as health-related criteria are more and more included in the procurement process, I think we'll be in a great position to support them. So thank you guys for the opportunity to work with you to do this.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Wendy and Michael. So the point is, I want to show you that all this stuff is very complex. As many of you guys have been in this industry, you've done this a lot. There's a lot of information here, from FP all the way down to the global recycled content standard. So there's a lot there, and it would take about 120 clicks if you wanted to actually get to all these registries and then find carpet underneath their registry. Instead, what Michael Bloom and I and his teams here at Ecomedes and SFTool did is, what if we just had a binocular set that would just hyperlink you to products that have met one or more of those guidelines? So with one click up above, you'd land in the SFTool Product Search, but only for carpet. And then you automatically have seen everything that has a declare label, green label plus label, green circle label, NSF 140, has an HPD, an EPD, or has even GSA contracts established, to where if a federal buyer wanted to buy off a schedule, it's even easier for them to do the actual bidding and the paperwork of buying. So the whole point is, everywhere that we can grab data we will go out to a registration group or a certification body or an ecolabel, something that's been referenced by the buyer, in this case, the federal government. And then that data, including all the products that meet that requirement. So in the parentheses, when I go to live demo, I'll show you, we tell you how many products are at the end of that designation. So there's 3 that have declared, there's 11,000 have Green Label Plus, there's 14,769 products that have an HPD. And the whole process is to make it easier for people to find products, because ultimately we're giving them some specifications. We're telling them what they need to do, in this case, non-carpet floor coverings. And then here's all the data that comes in from Declare, from FloorScore, from Green Squared, from HPDs and EPDs. So the whole idea is to make it really easy, really make it one click, and then now they can go searching for all the brands that have met those guidelines. So it doesn't cost something to be on this platform, because we already have data coming in from these different ecolabels. I will caveat that is that most ecolabels are giving us data at the certificate level, and most brands would love to see their entire catalog of products that carry that certificate. So that's one thing you want to definitely work on, is making sure that the digital footprint of your catalog mimics the amount of products that are actually certified. And in most cases, as people that suck in a lot of data every month, we're seeing that most certificates actually apply to many of your products. Breaking that out and making it easier is really, really important for either the federal buyer or a lead buyer. Make sure that that is easy for them to find that data. And then the last example I'll do here is furniture. Same idea. I don't know what's going on with my mouse, but same idea. We pull in all the criteria for furniture, and then everywhere that we can go to a registry, we will. So in this case, BIFMA level, Declare, FSC, Healthier Hospital Compliant, SCS, UL, and again, HPDs, EPDs, and even a GSA contract. So the more we can help buyers find the products that meet those requirements, I think the more sustainable buildings become simpler to deliver, because there's a lot of ingredients that we are forced to kind of evaluate on the fly. So with that, I'll stop. If anyone has any questions, please put them in the Q&A or chat, and I can answer them now, or if not, we can move on to a live demo of how sftool.gov and sftool.ecomeas.com connect. So I'll give everyone a couple seconds. I don't see anything going, but I'll queue up the live demo while we're waiting. All right. So really quickly, here's SFTool. As Michael said, it's a really powerful tool. I think it's one of the best websites for sustainable information in the world, regardless of what kind of buildings you build. The Learn section, as he said, has a lot of really deep information. Plan, explore, but procure is where the vast majority of our connectivity happens, and it's called the Green Procurement Compilation. I'll go into an example that we just covered. So under building finishes, I can click there. Here are all the subcategories. So these are kind of all the credit requirements for finding products that meet those guidelines. I'll click on floor coverings, non-carpet. As you can see here, all those hyperlinks that can take you to C2C or Green Circle or ANSI NSF or Green Squared. But instead of doing all those clicks, you can just click on this one set of binoculars at the top, and that'll open up the platform called SFTool Product Search, where 8,993 results have been done by going out for you to BioPreferred and finding the 287 products that are non-carpet, and then the 70 that are C2C, the 195 that are declared, so on and so forth. And down here, you'll see these additional high performance filters. Because the HPD Collaborative is not designated as an actual EPA recommended eco-label, because it's not a single set of data, it's a open standard, it's underneath this filter called additional high performance filters. Many of the products in this category that have an HPD designation also have other designations up here. If you've done this good job of transparency, you probably have achieved one or more of the other guidance elements. So if you click on the one filter, the 114, now you'll actually see within this 114 results, there are 10 that are C2C, 96 that have declared. So it's a very good research tool to see what the market has, and also tells you how many other product certifications exist once that one meta filter has been established. And then you can go down and say, I want to know which brands have products that meet those guidelines. So here's a brand filtered version of everything that is on an HPD collaborative site. And this is being updated on a monthly basis through our API with Wendy. So if I were to go into an actual product in that listing, you'll see we have the picture, we have all the different categorization, the description. As you scroll through this data set, you can see things like manufacturing location. This manufacturer has given us GSA contact information, which we'll be able to do if you guys want to participate in the GSA data enrichment program. And then all their standards and certifications are organized. And we also tell you who provided us that link. So in this case, this came from Cradle to Cradle on the 10th of February. This EPD came from the manufacturer. This HPD came from HPD Collaborative. And then if I click on that, it'll take me directly to your repository and provide you a link to that. So we're always going to send that user back to the location where that HPD lives. And then here the person can do whatever they want to do with that document. And then lastly, if they're LBC Red List free, they can go and get that from ToxNot directly. So we don't want to ever house a lot of that data. We want to just send the user to wherever that data naturally lives. And we always tell you the source and then the date that that data came in. They've added some recycled content. So in this case, this manufacturer has many touch points on what is required of a resilient floor covering, recycled content. They've got 4 other ways that they connect with the requirements. Plus, they even have information for a GSA contact to be called or emailed. Also within this tool, the documentation for federal guidelines, which is the GPC, or any version of LEED, WELL, Living Building Challenge, and Green Globes is available. So if that user on the buy side want to say, I want to just double check that that meets federal guidelines, they'll get this product page, and they'll also say these are the areas that they have. The federal guidelines are non-carpet, floor tiles, and heavy duty. They're all the same. And MOSA, actually, this one product conforms to all 3 requirements. So that's generated. So as a buyer, you don't need to know all the nitty gritty. As a seller, distributor, or sales rep, you don't need to worry about that either. You can then just download this PDF. Or if they're doing a LEED project inside the federal government, they could just run the same calculation, find LEED CI, and then run the same document. And we'll interrogate all this data in our database. And then we'll provide you a detailed description on what LEED credits apply. And underneath it, it's called Advanced Credit Display. We just launched that late last year. It'll actually tell you why the product got, say, 1 point here, or a contribution, or so it's kind of an advanced display of like, yeah, this is my homework, but here's how I did that work. And again, hyperlinks back to the data so a LEED reviewer can check that out. And again, this is all free for anyone to use and play around with. If you create an account, all you need to do is give us an email address and password so we can keep your work. It's really hard to kind of go back and kind of try to find all these web links. So if you just create an account, we'll keep all your projects in order. And the main reason why that's important is that you can actually put in multiple products across an entire project. So to go into this example of products that have HPDs, I can gather up all the data, including all those hyperlinked pieces of information from multiple brands across the real project, and then evaluate at the bottom against federal guidelines, LEED. I can add another rating system really quick and run the calculations against all the data that's inside of these projects. So this number 19 chair, even though it's just a thumbnail, it carries with it all these data points with it. And that way it allows the user to have an entire project worth of data and just hit evaluate. And we'll run that entire calculation that we just did on a single product against everything in that entire project. So it'll do a total of a $500,000 build out. All the individual subtotals are there. And then it shows you how those products would have aligned with GPC, LEED, WELL, and even do a water savings calculation since we had some plumbing fixtures.
Yeah. It looks like there's some great questions in the chat right now. There's a couple of them there.
Sure. Is it open to Canadian cities? Yes, I think you can use this anywhere. We have users. I think the second higher usage of this URL SFTool is in Canada. I'm not sure what region, but I think last time we did analytics, Michael, wasn't it like, was it Toronto or Ottawa? I'm not sure where that concentration was.
I think it was in Ottawa, which is also where Toronto is.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not that familiar, but
you're right twice. How about that?
Right twice. So another question is, do third-party certifications automatically come in? Yes, all these are at least updated monthly. Some are on a different cadence. If you hover over any of our data, it'll tell you when that data set was updated. Some have a direct link to us. So as soon as they make a change, it happens right away. But at a minimum, these data sets are refreshed from the source on a monthly cadence. Do the HPDs need to be third-party certified to appear in this catalog? No, I think the entire, if I'm correct, Wendy, we take the entire database as it is, right? We'd signify if it's third-party certified, but all HPDs come across, correct?
Yeah, so That's right, Paul, but I don't know if you want to add a filter for third-party verified, which is a piece of data that is available, whether it is or not. So that's,
Yeah, so we have that capability. I just clicked on BIFMA level and we have a secondary sort. So if that's where the HPDC would like us to go, we could always create within your category ecolabel, we can always create a filter like that for third-party certified or single-party certified. We have all product categories in the tool. The SFTool version of our platform is only curated by the product category rules we have been given by the Green Procurement Compilation. So things like countertops are sometimes a little tricky. So I'll just go to this one as an example because we have some folks in this category, I believe, that are our clients. If you go to composite panel, so it's a building finish, it's a composite panel, and then at the very bottom, you'll get to countertops. Right now, the only federal rule is biopreferred agri-fiber waste, but we are working right now, and I think we're fairly close to the finish line, is having some categorizations where if you've met any of the other building finishes designations like a cradle to cradle, indoor advantage, those might be able to be absorbed into the countertops category. Because right now, the only countertops you will see are ones that have biopreferred content from USDA biopreferred. So we're trying to open that aperture up a little bit wider.
yeah, I mean, just following up on the third-party verified HPDs, there's a question here, do they count as more they do for lead? So in this particular system, the HPDs are here as that additional check, do we have full transparency, which an HPD would provide. Now, the level of disclosure, is going to be different from HPD to HPD and whether it's third-party verified or not. But these are things that we can add additional filters. I do believe, Paul, that when you calculate the points for lead, if it is third-party verified, then it would count 1.5 as you have shown it there in the example that we saw earlier. So that data is in the background here, but I think bringing it forward in the way that Paul just illustrated with BIFMA might be something that we could add some additional filters within the HPD report itself, because all that data is available. So it's just a matter, I guess, Paul, of adding some additional filters into the tool for the HPDs themselves to down select.
Yeah, we can work on that. There's a
great suggestion.
Yeah, very good suggestion. We have another question related to getting the packaging artwork that we can work on. We'll talk about in a second on how you can enrich your data. So giving us an image, giving us a description, giving us your GSA contact information. We'll cover that in a couple minutes.
Great question.
Great question. You can get your multi-attribute industry standard approved through the EPA. That's something you have to handle with the EPA. These are the ones that the EPA has designated as viable. So that's why they show up here, but they have a process for that. So we can refer you to the right person after this. You guys can send us emails and me and Mike will divvy them up on who can respond. They do not, in GSA land, third-party certified ones don't count any more than the regular ones like they do for lead, but we do give you that credit attribution in our lead document. We have a platform called Materials for Lead that just services the USGBC's Better Materials program. So we have that baked into there. And then you don't have to be a US-based company to be listed. As long as your products are on these registries, we will be able to bring that data in. And like I said, this is a tool that people inside of government, outside of government, and service contractors, architects that work with government all use on a daily basis. I think last year we supported over 25,000 total users and served up, several tens of thousands of product PDFs or documentation sets for those buyers or those suppliers that were responding to federal procurement requirements. Let's see, we have another, some of the declare label links. I think someone's asking why they're going to a JPEG. In some cases, if it's our client, they would like to stamp that as a document that's kind of frozen until that certificate gets redone. So not all the data is always going to go back depending on how the client wants it. The vast majority of this data will just link you right back to the HPD page or the ToxNot page, wherever that declare label sits. And the last question I think I have is that there's, why isn't reinforcing steel not listed with the construction material category? Right now, there is steel industry reinforcing steel. It's in the GPC, But if you go to those products, it's only going to require that that data be recycled content. So we are working with the EPA to put all the steel products, all the stuff that might have a guidance that's not necessarily required in the like a finished material. We will be adding reinforcing steel, steel panels, things like that. I think we have a couple folks in our system now that already have, I think it was like AEP Span was one of the manufacturers that got out in front of this and provided that data to us. So let me see if I can find their catalog. They're not reinforcing steel, they're finished steel products, but they are an industry leader that wanted to get all their data organized. And you can see they've done a really good job of telling you all the different master format numbers, their EPD, their HPD, their declare labels, all that stuff's available down to the recycled content. So that's why this product can kind of meet multiple categories, because they've met multiple things, but recycled content is the main driver for compliance.
Right.
So,
and calls like this one are actually here so that we can inspire companies to actually engage with us and say, your product category is covered. Your products would be here if we had the data that we need. Your products that we have data for that we don't have pictures for could be made better by you engaging with us. We're going to tell you how to do that. We basically have a way of you enriching your data that already appears in our system by simply, and you get something from it too. Paul, go ahead and share the data enrichment program with folks at this point.
yeah, so exactly as Michael kind of teed it up, federal buyers want to buy better stuff. They have the budget. They're obviously buying lots of stuff every day. I think our recollection is probably several billions of dollars is being bought every single month that go into buildings, whether it's building related or just things that go into buildings to make the federal buildings run. They would like to buy that compliantly, but a lot easier, because right now there's those thousands of scavenger hunts in addition to all the other paperwork. If you're a federal buyer, you have to go through. But if we make it easy for them to find compliant things, then it's easier for them to shop more compliantly, and ultimately buying higher performance products will make their buildings operate better, be healthier, and all those things. On the manufacturing vendor side, we want to make it easier for you to position your products. That's why we're having this call. We want to streamline the way you deal with your customer, in this case, Michael and the federal government. And then ultimately your product performance delivered to the built environment is the way that those buildings become more compliant. You know, I was a consultant for many years. I could walk into a building, give all my knowledge. It didn't make the building any greener until they actually followed that and bought healthier products or better products or less consumptive products. That's when that performance engine turns on. So with that, after the words, we'll send you this deck, we'll send you an email. If you'd like to take a look at your product brand, all you have to do is go to sftool.ecomees.com, type in your brand name, see if it's there, see if the different eco-labeled stuff that you have. You'll probably find that there's some brand name alignment, things that might be misaligned. More than likely, you have multiple certificates, and probably every one of those certificates might have a slight deviation on how your brand is spelled, how it's organized. That's the first thing we can take a look at. We'll tell you how many different eco-labels of data we have on your behalf, how we can fix that, how we can align that name so it's all showing up one way. Even the smallest derivation of space, a dot after ink, an ink or a no ink, all of that will make our brand ingestion look like there's another company. So we have to kind of make sure we can tweak that for you on your behalf. If you change it on the eco-label, then it won't be a problem. Brand name alignment, we see a lot of goofiness there. More than likely, you've done this at different stages of your product development cycle. So there might be some things that have to be aligned there. Ultimately, what we would love to have is your SKUs, your images, your description, any type of product identifiers, contact for sales, general, federal, green, whatever you have. And if you have any federal contract information, GSA contract info, we can add that so that a GSA buyer or a federal buyer can see your contract ID, and then they can just go right from there. And we are adding things like Buy America Act compliance. And then if you have manufacturing locations, we can automatically see in our database, this is a US zip code, it'll automatically make it compliant. And as new EOs come on board, the Buy Clean initiative, we have some data feeds that are getting to us that have your GWP or your carbon disclosure. We can bring that in and make it easier for those buyers as soon as that gets flipped on. And it's a simple spreadsheet. We'll share with you a Google Sheet or MS Excel. We'll give you all the data we have. We'll show you where it came from. And then you guys can just give us the additional data. Like in most cases, it's GSA contact information or images. And those images could just be a link. So we don't want the actual JPEG. We'd rather have whatever your marketing folder is on your main website. We can actually link to all those URLs dynamically. So if something changes on your marketing side, we don't have to bother you for it. It'll automatically get updated. And that's pretty much it. You know, it's a one-on-one meeting. We'll go through the data we have on your behalf preemptively. We'll get on the phone with you. We'll take a look, and then we'll be happy to help you maybe realign or enrich the data that's already coming in. But like I said, some eco labels and certification bodies don't have all the other kind of pretty stuff like the descriptions and pictures. We'll be happy to get that added to the system and provided to the federal marketplace. So
Well, I think up in the chat here, we have a question from Chantal Levine. Are all products which have an HPD included automatically in the database?
yes, everything that's publicly available on the HPD site is going to be mimicked on our site and synchronized.
And then we have one more question here in the chat that are in the Q&A that I'd love for you guys to talk on is you mentioned that a lot of the documents exist at the product family level,
Yeah.
but brands want to list by specific products and styles. So can you explain that process a bit and how brands would do that?
Yeah, so what we do typically is we first want to just get the certified data that we're already ingesting kind of cleaned up and enriched, just so that Michael and the rest of the federal buyers have that. The secondary thing that we do for our customers is that we help you what we call as a SKU fan out. So we'll take all your certificates, work with you basically and look at your website currently or your catalog online, say, how can we represent that entire? So you have 1,000 products listed as a flooring company on your website, but you only have 10 eco-label certificates, but they apply to all 1,000. So we'll work with you to basically fan those 10 certificates out that we currently have on Ecomedes and give you an entire catalog that can be enriched. And depending on how complicated your data feeds are that we would have to manage and how many SKUs we have to kind of over time keep all this information straight, there's a variety of packages we have for small manufacturers all the way to multinational brands that have, 50 brands and tens of thousands of products. So we can talk about that. But first and foremost, we want to see how's your data currently in the system, how's it visible to Michael and the rest, and then is there other data beyond HPD data that could be aligned and get that straightened out. So we'll be happy to talk to anybody about how we've been doing that for many, many years. And we're really proud of how well we do that for some of the brands that allow us to do that for them. Let's see. One question, third-party verification. Yeah, so the attestation on like the HPD, anywhere that we have a good data feed from a trusted third-party repository, we try to provide it's okay. In this case, you can see it visually as third-party verified. So my guess is we could add that as a sub-filter. I'll have to talk to Michael, Wendy to see how we can have that as a secondary sort on the left-hand side. It also tells you what version it is and then what the validity date is. So more and more are starting to pass along more information. So in this case, Toxin, I think, is sending us a pretty large scale amount of information here. So we're always trying to make sure that we balance the ease of use with as much data as you want. And ultimately, we feel that we should always send the user back to whatever that source of transparency data is. That's the most credible way to do it. So
there was a question, Paul, on that, and I did respond also in the chat that this is something that we encourage manufacturers to seek the third-party verification and also project teams to request third-party verified documents. However, there is that attestation right on the HPD with who the responsible party at the manufacturer is. And so, and of course, the document is a transparency document. So they are showing what they say are the contents and other information. This all comes directly from the manufacturer, so that there is a level of accountability there that is an important one as they complete this. We do also before an HPD is published, there's a full compliance with the HPD open standard check that's done. And if if the data has not been reported in a manner that is compliant with the HPD open standard requirements, then it is not allowed to be published. So, that because there are rules for how the data is in here, and there are required fields to have what is called a complete and compliant HPD. So there are different levels of checking, and you can see that it is self-prepared, in this particular case, and then third-party verified. But if you go to the end, toward the end, if you scroll down where this attestation is, keep going. And so it's at the very, keep going. Let's see, there it is. So you have that specific information there on who it is at this manufacturer that has provided this information. And when they publish, they have to make an attestation that this is accurate. So many of the certifications do not require third-party verified data, but if that's an extra step. And in the HPD public repository, we have a specific functionality there. It's under our advanced features that you can send a message to a manufacturer and say, I have questions about the particular data in here, and have a dialogue with them, because you can get at that contact information. And then we have a messaging system built into the repository. So these are steps along the way to, improving this, but this is the information directly provided by the manufacturer. So I think in most cases when they sign off for things, they do their best to make sure that their accuracy is there. It's not foolproof, at that point, and that's where third-party verification, if you really want to have that, it's easy to request.
So I took over the screen just because I promised that I would share something about healthy cleaning as an option, but I want to make sure we address the questions before I do that. So are there additional questions that we need to answer at the bottom of the text? I think we just have a lot of resources and emails.
I don't see any additional questions, Michael.
Okay, cool.
I
So
see a comment here at the bottom of the chat.
yeah, the one on glazing.
Yep.
Yeah. So third-party certification is always a helpful indicator, but we need to build up people sharing data on our way to third-party verified data. So I think that's why we're willing to accept both at this point. So what you're seeing on my screen is the landing page of SFTool. And I mentioned that the Learn section had a lot of health information. One of the most recent additions to the health information is this healthy cleaning module. And the healthy cleaning module was developed because we realized that we build buildings for people. People occupy buildings and people also clean buildings. And talking about the intersection of healthy cleaning is something that's rarely done or modeled. And we wanted people to understand what we meant by that, not with the frame of this is a COVID world and we're scared of everything and everybody, but from the overarching idea of cleaning. So we talk about the difference between cleaning and pathogens and disinfecting. And we talk about health and safety impacts, environmental impacts of cleaning, the impacts on water, or energy impacts of cleaning, or solid waste impacts. You see that wherever there's a triangle, we can expand things. I mentioned how we use green dots. We model what a cleaning custodial closet might look like, or where you can make healthy cleaning choices in an office or a cafeteria. And underneath here, you have things like, well, what about hard flooring is important to know when it comes to cleaning? All of this detail underneath each one of those green dots. Restrooms, of course, and exterior. How do cleaning products, how does cleaning get done in all these different places? We also talk about policies and plans and procurement regulations, pandemic plans, key definitions about falls, healthy cleaning plans, integrative design, even things like UV lighting and cleaning or foggers. So if you are going into the realm of, I want to understand how cleaning impacts people and how the products that I have might be part of a healthy cleaning plan, this healthy cleaning module on SFTool is a great place to learn all those details, probably more than most of you feel like you need to know at the moment, but it's a great example about how deep the content in the tool that we're talking about today is. So something I wanted to share with you. The other thing I wanted to show you real quick, again, it's on the health page, and it's this health and wellness guidance crosswalk. We know that there are lots of different organizations that deal with health, right? Green Globes, Fitwell, GSA, PBS 100, LEAD, Well, ASHRAE. But which ones cover which topics that you care about? Well, this crosswalk, which is part of SFTool, actually allows you to search by category. Let's say we care about air quality and off-gassing, exposure to which one of these different certification systems covers that? All of them. But that's not helpful information only by itself. If you click on the check mark, you get to see where in each one of those documents or programs it mentions that particular thing. So that's very helpful. And then if you click on any one of the links up here in the top column, you're taken directly to that full documentation. So if you're trying to figure out what you do when it comes to cleaning or health intersects with the rating systems out there, the crosswalks in SFTool can also help make sense of that. And I just wanted to make sure you knew about that. So that's it. Those are the two extra little plugs from me today.
Great. We have 5 more minutes. So is there any other question? As I said, we'll send you this deck and presentation. You guys can schedule meetings with us if you have any more questions that are specific, Wendy, Michael, or myself, and we'll be happy to get all your data aligned and enriched as best we can and help you with whatever tricks we've learned along the way that keeps it all aligned in the world of a digital space. Anything else to close with, Wendy?
I'd just like to thank you, Paul and Michael, for offering us this opportunity to work with this program. I think we're just really at the beginning of understanding the potential and all the advancements that are being introduced here, such as the last things that Michael talked about with cleaning products. As it turns out, this is an area that we're starting to get interest in having HPD reports for products there, because you can do all this work to reduce and eliminate the use of substances of concern from a particular item. But then if it's reintroduced issues with the cleaning products that are necessary to maintain it, for example, that may not be the best overall solution. So I think we're seeing as more, this is what happens with the virtuous cycle, of innovation. The more things start to be used, the more ideas come up, and it's really our pleasure and honor to work with you on driving forward the practice of material health, in such a really critical and impactful sector as the GSA procurement. So thank you for this, and thank you to all of the folks who work with HPDs that have joined us today.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend.